Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 1st of March, 2014, which
2015.
Oh, I did it again.
Yes, we are now a quarter of the way through the year, and you are still getting last year's date.
Yeah, I shouldn't say the
Okay.
year.
Here's what you got to do. Start saying 2016 now. And then when 2016 does come around, you'll already be prepared for it. You just have to skip ahead to make sure you get back into the right groove in 9 more months' time.
Yeah. Welcome to the Simulationist 1976.
The first official podcast of what will eventually become the Internet. Right now it's just DARPANet, so you know.
So what else? The number of this issue is 130.
Woo!
Iteration 130.
Getting ever closer to 1 gross episode.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
We'll blow by it, I'm sure. Blow past it.
Hey, who knows? Maybe one day we'll hit 2 gross.
Yes, indeed.
That's pretty gross.
In case you don't already know us, hello, my name is Josh Trelevin. And on the other microphone, as always...
Picturing Josh in a 1975 really wide collar shirt, Ryan Kirkby.
And for all you know, that's exactly what I'm wearing.
I'm totally seeing it. You've got those big, like horn-rimmed glasses from the 70s, and you've just got the, like the ones, like where the collar comes down to, like, a really wicked point, almost down to the armpit, man. That, and plaid. I don't know why, but that's what I'm picturing you in, because now that we're in 1975, apparently, that's what I'm seeing.
I'm seeing you pretty much the same. Same as what you're wearing now. Yeah.
I am eternal.
Yeah.
All right.
Jeans, sweatshirt. Yeah.
I hate to admit it, but that's as close as humanity's ever actually come to a unified costume. I'm sure somewhere out there in space they've copied, Halloween. They found it a good idea for kids of any species. And the alien kids, like the little gray aliens or the reptoid aliens or whatever, they're dressing up as humans and they're wearing T-shirts and jeans.
I like it. Yeah. Cosplaying as humans.
And little fancy little human masks over top of everything. Walking around, I'm a human. I can't get off my planet.
Yeah.
Look at me, I fire little projectiles.
Because it's true.
My projectiles are all fired through chemical weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't even have decent handheld lasers. Although the military's got some really sweet stuff that'll apparently just cut through a battleship like a knife through butter, man. Oh,
neat.
Yeah, Google that stuff up. You'll want a good beer after that. And just see that's like, yeah, humanity. Meanwhile, it's
called a blowtorch.
No, this is something like they're using like huge lasers to it's like, okay, well the ship's basically got to be scuttled, so we're going to use it as a target practice, and they get a big old laser on the mainland and.
Okay.
Yeah, this is that's the future right there. That's the future of weaponry. You track coming out, cause mind you, of course, it's not going to be effective, because what you really have to fear is terrorists, and terrorists don't drive around in giant big battleships.
Yes, indeed.
Although I suppose you could really scare the heck out of the Somalian pirates.
Yeah.
Boy, could you imagine the look on their face when their ship just gets cut in half by a giant laser from another ship?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that'd be worth the billions they spent on it.
Is that still happening? The Somali pirates, are they still out there pirating? Living the pirate's life?
The pirate's life will happen anywhere it can get away with it. So long as poverty is rampant and ships are ill-guarded, piracy will rise again.
Okay. Should we talk about what we've been up to simulation-wise?
I believe so, because this has been a pretty big week for you, Josh. I mean, you got a chance to go to GottaCon.
Yay, GottaCon happened in Victoria. I didn't...
Rub it in, like salt in my wounds.
Nobody that I talked to this weekend mentioned the podcast.
That's okay. It gives us another year to get big, so everyone can hear us next year.
Yeah. But I did mention the podcast to a couple of people, so hopefully maybe they're listening. I don't know.
Oh, hello, new listeners, maybe. If you're not listening, then forget you, buddy.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So yeah, what was it like? How good was it?
Well, I mean, I had a lot of fun. I spent a lot of time running a D&D game, so that was like, standard D&D. I enjoyed
and
myself very much.
And this was a custom-made adventure too.
I just ran a 3.5 adventure, fairly, in some ways, kind of just thrown together, but also like with years of experience of D&D behind under my belt, behind my
many levels of 3.5.
What's the expression? Under my...
Should be under your belt, but I suppose
belt?
if it's D&D, then it would be like under your +4 girdle of giant strength.
Yeah, okay. And so I played lots of D&D, like as the DM, and so I had a lot of fun. I got to play a short session of Pathfinder with somebody else running as the DM, and it was sort of intended as a very like quick and dirty of Pathfinder. So he was like new to DMing, or I think that's what it was.
Everybody's new at some point in time. Nobody starts off with a couple of adventures, having like being run.
Yeah. So, but I was very like happy with how well he did. He played the characters like.
Did he give funny voices?
Yeah, he did a couple of funny voices. Yeah, and he did like undead, because we went and raided some tombs and opened up some like, oh, here's a rich person with like a necklace. Well, what do D&D players do?
Oh, hey,
that?
Here's a rich person who has no necklace because it's just a corpse now. There are no rich corpses.
Yeah. Not
for long.
Played some Pathfinder.
Does it ever strike you as weird that one of the greatest long-running continuances of human activity is raiding the dead for their stuff? The pharaohs of Egypt, 5,000 years ago, were not immune to getting all their stuff ripped off as soon as, the priests had their backs turned. Maybe, depending on who you talk to, even sooner than that. The priest may have been in on it. But what does that strike you as? Is that grave robbing is such a lucrative thing, apparently, that it has been one of humanity's longest running things. It's like, let's bury this person with stuff.
It can't be longer running than the actual practice of burial, which I find in itself rather strange.
You got to do something with the corpse. You can't just leave it where it is, otherwise disease spreads.
Yeah, burying with all of their, he's dead, we'll throw all of his good stuff along in the grave with him instead of actually making use of it.
There's two good reasons for that. One is superstition. It's like, this is a dead man's, we'll say, flint axe. Excellent
reason. Superstition is of course, the
rational. Dude, the guy who used this axe last is dead.
Yeah.
That might make this unlucky, or it's like, I knew. Well, I'll say Ted is a name that's been around for many thousands of years. It sounds like a name that cavemen could have given each other. Like, this is Ted's flint axe, I feel really guilty about using it. Does anybody else want to use it? Like, no, that was Ted's. He really did like that. I'll tell you what, he's not buried yet. We'll put the axe there with him. Squeeze this hand around on there, and then we'll bury that with him, because, everyone would wind up feeling guilty using Ted's axe. And so Ted gets buried with it, and that just becomes a custom. It's like, he really liked it, and, he's the only one that could make the axe work properly when you threw it. Everyone else who tries it always winds up, having the handle hit, and it was weighted properly for Ted, so you can bury the axe with him.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And, I have junk, my computer, I could probably sell it, but it's a little bit old, and it's kind of maybe somebody could use it, but also, if they buried my computer with me, that'd be okay.
I think that might be one of the more awesome things, because if it's unplugged, then it's effectively immune to anything, like electronic, like big EM waves or anything like that, especially if you get a good coffin to help insulate. So with it being effectively a solid state, once your decomposition stuff is done, in a good metallic coffin to act as an insulator for the whole thing, they could unbury you like a couple thousand years in the future, and look, think of all the treasure troves and all. That would be like the equivalent of like those Dead Sea Scrolls. Josh's, hard drive. Doesn't getting buried now with like something like an external hard drive or your actual computer sound that much more awesome now?
Yeah, well, and I don't know, because people, like, if we're going to turn to the topic of death, people die and they leave Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts and stuff like that sort of live on as an online memorial, even when people, like, are dead.
That's true.
Yeah, death is on my mind this week because
Leonard Nimoy passed away.
Yeah, Spock is dead this week.
I guess they weren't able to get him back to Vulcan in time for the Pon farr.
Yeah. Well, I guess in the Star Trek movies he died, but then they brought him back to life.
I don't think that's going to happen with Leonard Nimoy. I'm
life.
pretty certain he's going to get buried. I don't know if he's going to get buried with his hard drive, but he's probably going to get laid to rest, and nobody's going to try to dig him up and bring him back to life through some sort of convoluted Genesis bomb.
Yeah. If only.
Although, let's face it, some Trekkies are pretty darn hardcore. I can see a few crazy ones trying to build a Genesis bomb right now. I'll bring you back, Spock. I'll bring you back. Really, they're messing around with like 4 garbage cans worth of wiring and not much else. You can see it, can't you? You see it in somebody's like garage.
Well, I can picture it. Yeah, I have a good imagination though. But yeah, well, there. Yeah. Spock died. Yeah, I'm.
Well,
sad.
That's the thing though, because they did a very special episode yesterday for my Super Friday, my Super Saturday for the sci-fi stuff, and they did the Amok time, where Spock actually goes to the Pon farr, has to fight Kirk to the death for his mate in that song. Da 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 da
yes.
da da. Which, by the way, is awesome. Like they it wasn't just that one thing. They play it low and subtle when he's just it's building on him when he's actually in the ship and all that. And that I noticed it's like, oh yeah, it actually works pretty good. At the high end, peak, of the big orchestral, and it works nice as a background music. But I was thinking without Leonard Nimoy to play Spock, I don't think the role would have been as good or as big. It would have been done differently, and Spock rocked.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, it was almost a shame, apparently Vulcan males only, get physically active every 7 years, because from what I've seen on that series, watching it every Saturday night, he could have gotten at least as much tail as Kirk.
Yeah, he had a good body.
Well, that's the thing is his mind was attracting all the ladies. Like there's one where they're on a planet where it's like, oh, they've got a city up in the sky. Turns out a bunch of people down on the ground have to suffer for that standard of living for the others.
Oh yeah,
they get none of the benefit. Kind of like an Eloy Morlock combination thing going on there. And there's a lady whose sole existence is to be like a living work of art. And she says to Mr. Spock, I've never met a Vulcan before. And he goes, I've never met living artwork before. And she's like, oh my goodness, she's just like melting for him right then and there. It's like, oh. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, dude had play. But he was cool about it too. And like when they had like space hippies like on the Enterprise, like one of the space hippies' dads is like huge up, high up Federation muckety muck. So like Kirk's got to treat these space hippies with respect. And they wind up belittling him and all that. And they're just like, oh yeah, you're just like middle management type. You suck, Kirk. And meanwhile, Spock walks up to them, does that little hand triangle thing that they use for it, and they're like, oh yeah, man, why don't you come play some music with us, Mr. Vulcan? And he's like that. He fits in with the hippies. Is he a hippie himself? No, man, he's not a space hippie. But he's down with what they're doing, and yeah, he will play his Vulcan music with their hippie stuff.
Yeah.
By being the nerdy scientific self that he is, he gets respect, and he gets all these doors open up for him that otherwise would have just been barred shut.
Okay.
And I think the more I watch of Spock in the original series, the more I see the lesson of you have to be comfortable with who you are. You got to be comfortable in your own skin, as the saying goes. And Spock was, a logical person surrounded by all these crazy illogical humans. But he was comfortable with who he was. He was always like, I'm going to try and be the most, Vulcanish, half Vulcan there ever was.
Yeah.
And so, when he goes up to the space hippies, and he does the symbol and all that, he's not saying, I want to be a hippie too. He's not trying to follow a trend. He knows who he is. And other people seeing that he knows, who he is, they get respect, to him. And I really like how that seems to portray across the episodes I've seen. Because, it gives me hope that if I know who I am, and I keep being exactly who I am, and I roll with that, I present the world, this is who I am, and let's go with it. That the world opens up, and you know what? It seems to be working. I'm at work. I am impressing customers like you would not believe by being the crazy, corny little guy I am.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that is good.
And so I think without Leonard Nimoy being that role, it would have just been, somebody, I am, I have to play like a living robot type thing. No. Spock played some interesting, subtleties, through Leonard Nimoy and back and forth that I don't think other actors could have portrayed. Like, I spent some time sitting down watching the episode, and all that. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, let's imagine the roles reversed. Let's say Leonard Nimoy was Captain Kirk. Could he play the swaggering bravado that, Kirk is known for? And then I was like, okay, well, if Leonard Nimoy is playing Kirk, then I guess that means, Spock role has to fall down on the shoulders, the shoulders of... anyone. I was mixing all of them up. I was just like, okay, take everyone and move it down. Like, what if, Nichelle Nichols plays Kirk and all that? And I was imagining all the other actors playing, Spock at one point in time. And I just couldn't see any of them. William Shatner, Doohan, any of them wind up doing the same depth and subtleties that Leonard Nimoy brought to it.
Okay.
And so that's why I really do more in, his passing is... Well, apparently he suffered pretty hard being the emotionless guy.
Well, he wasn't literally an emotionless guy.
No, but that's the thing, though, is he had to, he had to play a character with no emotion for, 14-hour days sometimes. And from what I've been told in the documentaries and stuff, it started bleeding through into his real life. Like, they were in, a conference meeting with, some of the higher-ups, and Leonard Nimoy just started to cry, and he couldn't stop it because he'd been holding back all emotions for so long, and he's got to be a professional person in front of the executives. It just, something break any emotion. You just got to just show something to make up for all the emotion you had to press back for those 14 hours.
Well, that reminds me of something I read about, and which I may have read it about a different actor, so this is probably wrong, but I read that when Spock first started working on, or when Nimoy started working on Star Trek, when he was cast as Spock, his other job, just before that, had been running a class on method acting, which is getting into your character and sort of staying in character when you're not on screen. And so that would explain why he was Spock, sort of what he brought to Spock, because he sort of adopted that personality in other areas of his life, just in order to make him, better at acting. To be a better
Spock.
Better actor, better, portrayal of that character. He brought it into other areas of his life, which is the definition of how method acting is supposed to work.
Method acting usually works okay, but for something like as strenuous as don't show emotion, be a cold and logical, living machine. That's almost dangerous.
Yeah,
psychopathy starts sometimes, man. Suppressing the emotions until something bursts.
One of the main parts of acting, though, is being able to change your, not match your emotions or, portray an emotion which you don't actually feel.
I still think being able to laugh realistically on cue is an amazingly powerful ability.
Yeah.
The concept of looking like you're actually laughing when it's the 15th take. The joke wasn't funny the first time.
Yeah, I think laughing emotions, I think sort of genuine joy and laughter is probably the hardest one to fake.
Anyone can fake being angry. All you have to do is think about something that makes you angry, and then you'll be angry at everything.
Yeah.
But to try and laugh on cue and be happy on cue is pretty hard. So yeah.
Yeah,
like acting's surprisingly stressful.
And that's not to say that you're not a happy person. Like, people aren't genuinely happy. It's, I mean, like, you can be a happy person in general, and still, like, when you want to be in that moment, it doesn't always match. And
I have to be happy in front of customers sometimes, and I have to say, like the thing in the back of my head is like, do you think they're buying it? Your happiness, your cordiality, or do you think do they actually know that you just want to tell them just get your stuff and get out of here?
So acting, Leonard Nimoy, giant in the field in the.
And that said, I hate to say it, but I think playing Spock hurt his career a bit. It's the same thing as...
Well, maybe at times I would agree with you.
Well, I mean, you look at him and you say, hey, it's Spock, yeah! People come up to him on the street, hey, they do, the Vulcan salute, hey, it's Spock, woo! Live long and prosper. And it's the same thing, as Luke Skywalker with Mark Hamill. It hurt his career for a long time because people looked at him, hey, it's Luke Skywalker! And so people had a hard time looking beyond the one role he played. I always wanted Leonard Nimoy to try more voice acting stuff. He had a very nice, deep, gravelly voice when he wanted to, and a very smooth voice.
Well, he did a lot of those voiceover things for science shows and stuff.
If you can find it, you should be able to find a lot of these online for In Search Of. After when A&E was just starting up, they were doing 4-hour marathons of In Search Of, and it was Leonard Nimoy doing the voice of going on and then they went here to explore, and it was amazing. Just
I wonder if that, because they said he attributed his ultimate the disease that killed him, which is chronic pulmonary disease of some kind. Basically, it's a heart and lung thing.
Yeah.
And he says that was from him smoking when he was a lot younger. He quit for, I don't know, many decades. He was not a non-smoker in his later life, but still that much smoking.
Spock smoking, I'll say that.
Well, it is, but on the other hand,
everyone smoked back
I associate that sort of a deep, gravelly, the most interesting man in the world kind of voice with smoking.
Although, to be fair, Tom Waits has got one heck of a voice. Best described as bourbon poured over asphalt. And bourbon apparently was a big reason in his singing voice. 20 years of bourbon combined with a little alcohol.
Although now that I've said it out loud, I think I might be overemphasizing in my mind the role that smoking actually has to do with the voice. I think it has some effect. I think it probably does.
And it can permanently change it, because once you're used to speaking in that sort of way, it's hard to go back. You can look at Seth MacFarlane. Since he had to start doing the voice of Brian the dog, he said his voice has changed. He speaks more smoother and deeper than he used to, and he does that just by reflex. Now he has to change his voice more to become Peter or Stewie Griffin.
Huh.
So if you take the one voice and you do that often enough, it's kind of hard to change back.
Yeah.
It's like quit making that face or it'll stick that way. Maybe not apply.
Quit making that voice.
Yeah. Apparently, it works more realistically with voices than it does with making funny faces.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
So what else? Let me see. GottaCon.
Did you bid on any sweet stuff? How good was the loot at the auction?
Well, there was a lot of good stuff. I didn't actually make that many purchases. Let me see. I don't think I bought anything other than food. I guess that's a vice of mine, and I feel like I'm allowed to because I ride a bicycle, so I don't have to. Two things: I don't have to worry about my weight, and I don't have to buy gas
or car insurance,
or insurance for that matter. Yeah. So a lot of the things. So I highly advocate being a cyclist for those reasons.
Especially in a place like Victoria, where they're constantly expanding and trying to improve the bicycle laneways.
Yeah, it's a good town to be a cyclist. So I don't. Well, now that I say it, maybe I kind of do feel a little bit guilty. But I just eat junk food. I like chocolate bars and pop and chips and everything like that. And they have lots of those. At a convention sort of thing. Yeah, at a convention you can kind of let it go.
Kind of relax your rules. It's almost like a Thanksgiving or like a Christmas time. We're having fun. It's all in it for the fun. Just make sure it doesn't become a regular sort of thing all the time. It's like, I'm God, I eat like 1 box of Smarties a day.
Yes.
That's kind of a bad habit to be in.
Yeah, it's something you got to watch out for. I remember Fear the Boot has. Oh, what you're?
I must say, we have known people before that had like a liter of Coke a day.
Yeah.
And they managed to burn it off through physical activity and decent metabolism. So you're okay with it. You're okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure that you know what you're getting into when you have that. You're drinking lots of pop. You're going to want to make sure you brush your teeth properly and don't grind your teeth in your sleep. Well, you'll really grind away the enamel. Mm-hmm. You're going for the sugar stuff. You want to make sure you get a little bit more cardio in your life. Just as long as you can offset what you're doing, it's kind of like a carbon tax, right?
Yeah.
As long as you can offset stuff right, it'll all wind up being all decent. Not great. You'd be doing better if you did those good habits and not put the junk in your system, but
Yeah.
C'est la vie.
Yeah, I was going to say another podcast, another D&D podcast, which is, I do recommend Fear the Boot. I think it's very similar to what we do. They have a group of about 4 guys. Did you ever listen to
I've heard a few of them.
Okay.
And all that. It's hard for me to get going on a lot, but...
I don't listen to quite every episode. Like maybe every 3rd or 4th I get listened to nowadays. But it's another podcast, and they do their own convention that's called Fear the Con, so they have enough listeners that they can have their own convention.
Ooh, fancy schmancy, aren't they?
But I don't think they make money on it.
It's a fun thing.
But, they pay for it anyways. But they have a big sort of fruit and vegetables kit going on with their convention. They make very sure that they have healthy options available for all of the attendees. And we didn't have that. It would
be nice to have the nerdy subpopulation be known as people that eat healthier than junk food.
Yeah, I think that'd be something to sort of advocate for. Maybe next year for GottaCon is
banana stand.
See if because this year actually I believe it was just the Empress staff or the Victoria Conference Center, their own staff, who was like running the
concession
service. Yeah. It'd be good.
Although to be fair, I mean that is an indoor location. If you were to have like some of those like little fried donuts things, that smell would get in everywhere and drive everyone to your stand.
Yeah.
You are in a prime opportunity to really get some high pressure sales that way. Like you can smell. I can smell them right now. It's the toasting mini donuts, and then the nice little sugar cinnamon sprinkle they put on top there. It doesn't even exist, and I can smell it right now just imagining it. That's how good of a pressure sales that is, man.
Yeah, indeed. I went to one panel. I went to a Kickstarter panel, which I guess you can also get that on Jules Sherrod's podcast feed. It'll go up probably... Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. He's got to do, editing and make sure everything's up and proper. Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do, but he should put it up on his feed there.
When he can, give the man a little time, right?
Yes, exactly. Because GottaCon, he's also like an organizer in a lot of these things too. So
this man wears many hats.
Indeed,
like a Team Fortress 2 player.
As do all all the volunteers and stuff for GottaCon. They all did. I was very happy with the job they did. I was well, it's hard to say I don't feel like the convention is for me anymore, and that's a weird. It's no, that's not to say that I'm not going to go. I feel like it's not designed. I'm not my role in the convention is I am on this end pushing it out towards other people, saying here, take this, taste this, try this.
Go to the car, you're a barker now for.
I am on the side of the, even though I wasn't an actual I wasn't a volunteer. I was a GM, so that's something. But yeah, I feel like I'm more on the staff side of things, pushing it out. I'm not the consumer. I'm not who the con is intended for. I'm not. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Although
you're not in the inner circle, you're on the outer circle. Calling people in.
I guess so. But maybe that's how fandom ought to work. Especially with D&D. Yeah. Is there should be sort of a very a mix, a porous border between inside and outside.
Come in when you need to. Head on out if you feel like you need to go out for a while.
Or however that works. Just the fact that the people who make it are also consuming things at the same time, and so there's. But what else? how did I get to that point?
Just stuff you noticed from the con this year.
Oh, and there were panels which you can get. Yeah, I'll put a link probably in the show notes to the panels you can get.
So many panels you think we're powering a space station.
Yeah, and I watched I watched one SCA fight, the Society for Creative Anachronism.
Who won?
I can't remember now. There was two people. They were fighting with rapiers. I think the bigger guy won both fights.
Which is weird, because like when you're doing a rapier fight, the bigger guy's the larger target, easier to hit.
Yeah, but also has typically bigger reach, so that's important.
But reach can be overcome with a proper lunge.
Yeah.
And a series of lunges can force even the biggest opponent backwards in that. That's what I've seen. It's some good stuff.
Well, I enjoyed what I saw. I didn't really understand too well what I saw, but I did like it.
In that case, you're going to have to wait for the Summer Olympics and watch the fencing stuff there.
It's funny,
too. A few lessons.
The way they initiate the fights with the SCA, and I think they've done this, they've rehearsed it a few years in a row. They had someone to yell out
Mortal Kombat?
No, they do a little, like a drama in the exhibition hall, like where people are selling stuff, where there's little booths and stuff, and they start at their own little booth where they have some costumes on display and armor and stuff. So they do a little drama. It's like, I'm absconding with this. Once it was like a whole woman, like I'm absconding with this woman, and like picks up one of their own people, not just a random attendance go.
Yeah, that could lead to a pepper spray, and that's an anachronism.
Well,
pepper spray versus plate helm. How does that work?
That was what I was going to say, because that was one thing. Is that, okay, that's pretty obvious. Like, you're carrying a woman, like, dressed in 14th century flowing dress, like, out the window. Okay, yeah, that's fantasy. That's part of the show. But
that's a creative anachronism, I'll give it that.
But the other, they started another one. They have another, they might have a few of these. I only saw two. But the other, like, initiation they had was they had... somebody yells out, "Hey, you stole that sword!" And there's booths all over the place, with the swords for sale. And you can imagine, like, somebody could just grab a sword, make off with the sword. The security's not too tight. It's very crowded. So I think
it's kind of hard to steal a sword and get away with it, though. It's not like you can just pocket that darn thing. It's not a dagger.
In a crowd, though, you could. Like, the person is looking the other way. If there's one crowd you're going to be able to blend in while walking around with a sword, it's going to be a convention. Yeah, because those booths they're fairly open, and it's fairly crowded, and often people just have to sort of squeeze back into the booth just to get around, because somebody's got a huge costume.
I did see some images of some very nice cosplay. Master Chief and the blue lady from the Master Chief series, the digital lady. Very nice cosplay stuff there. Yeah. So somebody yells out, "Hey, you stole that sword. Are you going to pay for that?" Or something like that. "Hey, come back here." And then they're yelling almost in modern accents, too. Like, sometimes they slip into that medieval, like... "Halt, varlet knave! It's not... Thou hast stolen mine!" I don't know, what's a good word for sword that's not a sword? Mine rapier! Mine rapier. And it's funny because the SCA people, sometimes they'll use like thee and thy, like "thou hast stolen my," but often it's a change in... Shall thou pay, or dost I need to beat you full sword? Often it's just a change in register. It's just a little bit like elevated, like you're throwing your voice because you're an actor. Like, yes. I'm an actor and I want to hear everybody speak, but it's all, and they and this and that and blah blah blah, and so there's a different and. I don't know. So long as they don't pronounce Y-E as ye. Yeah, right. Because that's the Y-E that was pronounced as a T-H. So it's the. Right. And that always gets me. It's like, no, it's the old shop. The this, the that. It's not ye. Ye old anything. And then they also have security guards, like, at this place, because it's part of it's downtown Victoria, and it's all, like, they had a fair amount of security, always visible, and so you wonder if, like, if a security, I guess the security guards are told or whatever that, the SCA is there, they do a little... They're going to do this at 12:30, so get ready for crazy. But, yeah, I can just imagine, like, somebody, for some reason, not being in on it and being like, what? And, like, running after it and tackling the person and, like, have somebody actually getting injured. No, the case is too anachronistic!
No, I'm role-playing a 1990 guy with a taser.
It's steampunk, baby! Now, speaking of which, how creative can their anachronisms be? Could I, electrify my sword?
Oh, well.
That's pretty creative.
Shit,
an anachronism.
I was trying to grill the lady who tells you all about how everything works. Like, she's dressed up in a fancy dress, and she talks about, gives you the pitch, basically, for SEA. And I was, like, trying to grill her, being like, what if I wanted a musket? She's like, nope, nothing after. But what if I'm from 13th century China? She said 15th century. 13th century China, they had guns then, didn't they? Like, I was being a real dumbass and... Yeah.
What if I come in with my effective, 10th century, Chinese ballistics weaponry here?
And then,
can I fire off 100 shots at once?
And then she says, just no black powder. Just we don't do black powder because we're not allowed because we don't have the permits. And
I do remember my brother Adam being forced to unstring his bow when not actually at the scene. Because a strung bow is still legitimately considered a weapon even in this day and age, and that's like the same as him walking around with a gun for intents and purposes. So I guess I can understand that. Black powder would be considered a dangerous weapon at all points in times. You'd have to get licensing for the whole darn thing, and then the insurance rates just seemed like, oh yeah, we want to practice. This guy's got black powder. He just wants to throw in like old-fashioned camera flashes. All this, it's still going to be an extra $100 to clean up after you guys.
Yeah, but she said there is another society, I think they're called Black Powder or something like that. But they have elastic band.
The Society for Steampunk Anachronisms.
They have elastic band guns where they shoot big, thick elastic bands off a gun. And
you can hurt someone.
Kind of hurts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a bullet.
Padded armor, man. Padded armor.
Yeah. So we saw that.
And then there's the whole LARPing thing where you throw a beanbag at someone yelling, magic missile. Crack them between the eyes, they take X points damage.
Yeah, there were LARPers there too. Yeah, and so that was I think. I mean, there's more stuff, but
there's
had to
more
be there,
stuff to be done than one person could see and describe.
Yeah, I can't fit it all into one podcast.
And I think that's a good thing. There's more there than one person can experience any given year.
Yeah, for sure. Now my plan right now, I think I like the idea of being a DM the whole weekend, of filling up as much slots as I can with dungeon mastering, because I like that. That's my favorite thing. But it also means that I'll be missing possibly panels and panel discussions and other things.
But you're a part of the greater circus that is.
I think so. Yeah, I think I have a niche there.
Very nice. I gotta say, working this weekend and realizing that you're there, running a thing. It inspired me to at least consider next year. Maybe I want to do something like that.
Well, I hope you do. And I hope, should I talk about 3rd edition? The edition wars? I was the only person at the whole convention running D&D 3.5. I mean, it's not a big convention, but there was several other... I was in the Pathfinder room.
So you're saying I would be the only one doing a tri-stat game?
Yeah, if you ran a tri-stat
the only
game,
one knowing how the tri-stat rules go. Yeah, just roll 2 dice and I'll tell you if you do it.
And yeah, I guess I should say, in the broader, in the whole role-playing game area, which we had several sections of the convention center were devoted to role-playing. There are other, board game sections, video game sections.
Oh yeah, they got a whole area for playing board games there. It's some magnificent stuff. Just toss in a deposit, get your board game, have some fun.
But if you added up all of the people who were the only GM running their own particular system, you would probably have almost as many as the biggest other given system. Probably D&D 5th edition would be the biggest.
Well, this is the year that everything's finally out and about, rather than just playtest stuff. So I can see that being the big draw this year. Yeah,
but what people like to do at conventions, obviously, is pick a system that probably a lot of people haven't tried yet.
I can play this game and I don't have to pay any money. I don't have to pay $50 per book. Someone will just help me run through to see if I do my thing.
So I guess this worked for 3.5 for me. But one of the things the players said to me was most of the people were familiar with Pathfinder, and they said, well, this is basically Pathfinder. I mean, there's so few differences that it's
yeah.
And
I've always considered Pathfinder to be like a campaign setting.
Mm-hmm.
Like Eberron or the Forgotten Realms.
It might be with its own house
rules tweaked, yeah. Like Eberron's got stuff for heroic actions and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Pathfinder's, a tweaked system for 3.5. In my mind, that's how it works best. They did some very interesting rules about this and that I wouldn't mind carrying over into 5th. But I'm still studying all the books, and I'm like, because, it's like, oh, Josh is running a campaign. What would it take for me to run a campaign? I've been opening up all books and studying them back and forth all at once now.
Oh, yeah.
I've gone from basic studying just the one book, make sure I know this, how this works, what goes on here. No, I'm shifting up into the high gear, man. I had like 3 books around me, man. I was doing the sagely, scholarly study stuff.
Yeah, preparation for D&D, you sometimes get like books spread out all over your workspace wherever you are,
all around
or a table,
me.
or even down on the floor. It's like, oh, I need this little book for this. Yeah, but I mean, that's one of the things I really like about 3.5 is having all those books, and yeah.
And that's the thing is, I was thinking about it, it's like, oh, hey, Thrycreen are in the Monster Manual, and it's like, oh. Yeah, I guess, there's not much for player stats on that sort of thing yet. Oh, goblins are here. Oh, no, nothing much for player stats on this. They gotta be a monster.
Yeah.
And I do respect that divide. Player, character, race, monster race. Because then you don't have to worry about, like, oh, yeah, we're gonna go kill all them gobos. Dude, 2 of our members are goblins. Like, that's half our party. It's like, doesn't that seem a little weird for you? It's like, well, they're all evil, whatever.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's like I dig the things they're doing. I want to start creating my own sub-races. I'm looking at some stuff. It's like, okay, I can do this, switch things like that, move over. Yeah, this all works out and is balanced. I want to start putting, pencil to paper or, finger to keyboard and writing this stuff up. It's like, I want to make my campaign. I want to get this stuff going. And, like, if that means I'm going to have to turn goblins into their own dang race, like for player stuff, so be it. I'm going to, because I want the Krynnish Minotaurs. I have the stats for Kender thanks to, the play test. They had Kender in there. If you can find, it's technically illegal, but if you can find a copy of the play test stuff, you can find a way to play Kender. Mm-hmm. I want the Warforged or something like them from the Eberron stuff. There's a lot of good races out there that... I think the biggest mistake that they had for 3.5 was not putting out just a big book of races. You want to play a different race? You want to put this in your campaign? Here's like all the races we've had, throughout all the books in one big format. Boom. They had one for magic items. They had one for spells. They didn't have one for races. That was the biggest gap I saw in their vast, vast collection of books, of which I own a nice representation of sample.
Okay, well, that's probably enough GottaCon talk. Can we talk about what you did for your week?
Well, this week, aside from mourning the passing of a great actor, I saw the final episode in the Agent Carter series. I liked it. I liked the ending. It was kind of open. Not everyone all the bad guys go to jail, and even the bad guy that goes to jail winds up furthering what may become a good villain later on in the greater cinematic universe. They had a guy who could hypnotize people. He had like a ring that made like a humming sound. He's like, concentrate, think to this. And he'd get people to do stuff like tell him everything, or give him whatever he wants, and then like, okay, step out in front of traffic and kill yourself.
Wow.
And they do it.
Oh, yeah.
And he winds up getting paired with Arnim Zola once he goes to prison. Those of you who know the Marvel Universe, Arnim Zola has an ESP box. He effectively winds up taking his brain pattern and putting it into like a robot. So he's got like this giant face of his on like the chest of the robot, and the top is just like a camera sort of thing. It's a crazy look to him. But he's got like an ESP box, and he can force people to do his bidding. And Arnim Zola's in there, and the guy, who can hypnotize people, he's got like basically a wire jaw thing, so he can't speak, So that way he can't, hypnotize people with his words. But Arnim Zola, is like, well, your hands are free. Here's a, pad of paper, and I would like to hear about your thoughts on all of these wonderful things. And so it's like setting up for Arnim Zola getting the ability to get others to do his bidding.
Okay.
Getting him closer to the Arnim Zola of the comics.
Uh-huh.
And it would explain how he can survive all those many decades to get to the present time. I mean, he's going to wind up being, memory engram put into a box. Because that is one of the big things that Arnim Zola does in the comics. The first thing he does is be able to transplant like a mind into a fresh, cloned body. So that's a pretty scary ability when you're working with Nazis. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, all the high-end leaders, they're immortal. You want one soldier? You find me the perfect soldier. I'll get his brain, copy, paste times 1,000. There, now you've got an army of the perfectly programmed soldier.
Well, yeah,
They will serve freely, but they have no desire to go higher up in the ranks. They will always be a soldier, and you won't have to worry about them backstabbing you.
I guess so. I don't know if that was the Nazis' biggest problem. I mean, they had a lot of problems.
Well, I mean, in Hydra, that's their big thing. As the Red Skull likes to say, they try and kill each other because they want to rule. And they want to rule because they have ambition. And they would not be worthy of Hydra if they did not have ambition. So he sees their constant attempts for the higher echelons of Hydra of trying to backstab and kill each other to become the head of Hydra organization as a worthy thing. Because only the great people will, not be killed in this whole thing. And that's, that was kind of scary because I can see a sense of some bit of nobility there. It's like, only the great shall lead. How shall the great lead? Well, by not dying when other people try and take their place. And it's like, oh yeah, survival of the fittest. I can kind of dig that as a methodology.
Yeah.
But it's like, whoa, I just saw something I can recognize and respect in Hydra. That's not a good sign, buddy. Whoa. But yeah, it all played out well, and it has opened enough that I can see them doing another series, although I am missing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is coming back on, this next Tuesday. It's resuming. So, I mean, if they could put both of them, like Agent Carter on a Monday night and, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on a Tuesday night, then I could be getting my nerd on, twice a week. I wouldn't have to settle for one or the other. I could get them both, man. Yeah. And that's what I wouldn't mind seeing. I like the actors. I like the characters. I think Hayley Atwell's got a good potential future in her playing Agent Carter. So, fingers crossed for her. That said, I mean, I have to say, I know of Shakespeare and Juliet. I read them in high school, sort of thing. And, the whole star-crossed lovers, it didn't resonate with me. They were two teenagers that really seemed to get off on cheesing their entire family off and doing what they shouldn't be doing. And I will note, it says in the first act, just 2 weeks ago, Romeo was, trying to get with, Juliet's cousin, and it starts off with him being, I'm not going to get whatever the heck her cousin's name was. I can't remember. My life is worthless. Oh, hey, look at this new piece of tale here. Oh, boy, am I in love. It's like, no. This is teenage puppy love craziness that you still see today. Congratulations, Shakespeare, on writing something that has transcended almost the longer half of a millennia. I think it is the longer half of a millennia now. How he wrote that when?
Shakespeare is 1600s.
So yeah, that's
1590, 1600.
Okay, so it's it is approximately a half millennia, and you can still see what relates as to a human characteristic. Teenagers are hormonally ridden and do crazy things in what they believe to be true love. I didn't see it as being star-crossed lovers. But Agent Carter and, Steve Rogers, Captain America, that is star-crossed lovers. He, sacrifices his life, to keep the Tesseract from blowing up and nuking, all sorts of problems coming out of there. And, Agent Carter, never sees him again. She has to, at the end of the series, accept, and get over the loss of what could have been the greatest love she would ever have on a truly noble person. But he's not dead. As we know from the Captain America stuff. He's preserved in ice, thanks to emanations from the Tesseract and all that sort of stuff. He's not dead. And but he's technically not alive. He's frozen, right?
Yeah.
But he won't come back to life, be unfrozen and all that, until long after she's died. And that strikes as profoundly star-crossed. I mean, she has to acknowledge that he is dead for her to get on with her life, but he's not dead. Technically, he could be saved, but the technology just ain't there. Even with Howard Stark powering the future, it's like I see that. That's deep, man. That has more emotional, like, tragic appeal to me than Romeo and Juliet, and that's why I think I like the series so much. That's why I want to see it come back, but not displace Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's why I kind of, but I don't want to displace the Flash either, because I'm kind of digging, like a Marvel DC combo on Tuesday night. So like, put her up next to Gotham on a Monday night. Maybe it'll get me into watching Gotham more. I'll get my nerd on 2 nights a week. So in the end, I got the end of that series, and I did like that it had a definitive ending. Like, this is a story of this happening. The end.
Yeah.
And it was self-contained, but has potential for another arc. And I think it represents a very nice way. Like, you can watch the series as like an adventure. Like a role-playing game.
Like a D&D adventure?
Well, I guess D&D probably wouldn't be. Maybe a D20 past sort of thing, as opposed to like D20 modern or anything. Okay. But you could definitely see it as like an adventure. I mean, like Agent Carter's the main character, but there's some other people you could see playing, as being PCs in the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And it works. You can see it's like, oh yes, this is a nice idea. Like, it doesn't mean like the end of the campaign or the end of the story is the end of the entire campaign. It's just the end of this story arc. There, done. And it works. I dig it. I love it. So yeah. Woo!
Cool.
Other than that, I played a lot of Minecraft.
That's good too. Yeah.
I decided I had nice big plans for a huge library, and I was like, no. I'm looking at the numbers. That's too large a library. I don't need to build the Library of Alexandria. So I forced myself. Okay, here is the area you're going to work with. Yeah. What are you going to do with this space? So instead of having like a big, long, spanning library where most of it was just area where you walk by to get to where you want to be.
Sure.
Which, admittedly, that's my entire town right now. Like, where I'm digging, I can just barely see the other edge of the town in the fog. My vertical farm is slightly obscured by the fog of distance.
Yeah.
It's a big area. So it's just like, okay, maybe I'm making things way too big. So it's like, okay, what am I going to do with this space? How am I going to do things? So I'm rethinking, like, how am I going to build my library? What am I going to do? Where's everything going to go? And I'm enjoying that. I think I've made the right choice at restricting myself in size area. So I'm happy with that. It's going to wind up being circular, and I think I'm going to have it recessed partially into the ground, where it'll go down and up from the entryway.
Okay. Yeah, I like it.
And I'm already planning some stuff. Like, I was at work today, I'm like, what if you get into the entryway and I make that effectively a small circle for like a foyer with stairs leading spirally down around, and then I can make it work on all 4 corners. So it's like an open library, not just only one way. Like 4 main entrances is like a more open style. So I'm going to start looking at stuff like that. And I decided to use the wood from the one mod I have in there, the thaumatology mod. So I'm using like a great wood, which is a very dark styled wood. I'm gonna see how well that works with the bookcases to act as a lighter source of color. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm gonna have some fun with that. And in the end, I'm gonna have to transplant all my essence berry bushes into a nice little place down there too. And I want to keep it open, so I think I might want to, like, you've played WoW, how they have, like, those mage towers where there's, like staircases going across here and up over there. I think I might have something similar in style design to that. Make it open, but still able to climb and go up. So, at the very top of it, just before the, it'd be like a glass dome I have at the top of my tower. Like right up at the top of it. That's where I'm going to have my enchanting table for the high end, 30 level enchant stuff. But there's going to be other stuff down and about. Maybe I'll have like an underground area for toss my study stuff away here and there. I'll have to spend some time thinking about it, and that's making me quite happy. Other than that, because I wasn't able to go to GottaCon, I had inspiration. Say, I am going to do something gaming. Dang, got it. And I was not going to have to. I don't need no con. I don't need to pay money to have my game on. And so I'm going to run a campaign for you, Josh. And so as I was thinking up stuff, it's like, okay, I'm going to test out the 5th edition rules on, and it's like, that's an idea. Yeah, okay, basically what I want to do is, first off, is get get familiar with the rules. So I'm going to have you fight some stuff. So, okay, I'm going to have you fight here. It's like, okay, now how do I get you here? And then everything started coming together. It's like, and then a city formed in my mind. A city-state grew out from that, and everything's starting to form together. I'm liking where it's going. But I'm going to have to strike before my attention goes elsewhere. Because earlier in the week, I saw something on TV about skull spiders. The evil guy gets a hold of a magical mask and summons skull spiders. And I Google up skull spiders and like, look at that, that's awesome and creepy. How come that hasn't been done in D&D before? Unfortunately, my ideas for it became like a Sonic creature, so I'll have to make it in 3.5. But then that got superseded for my, I'll make a campaign, like a potential storyline for Josh, and I'll learn the rules for 5th edition. And now the skull spiders are a little note on a Word document on my computer. And it's like, guess they hit the back burner already. Yeah. So I got to strike. Well, this one's still fresh in my mind. I got to start writing stuff down. I got to start making up ideas, fleshing things out, so that before my attention gets distracted by something else, I will at least have something written down to work on later and build from that. Mm-hmm. So fingers crossed. Knock on wood. I will be able to get enough done so that I can at least start an adventure for you, George.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, we can both learn the 5th edition rules now. Probably maybe take it a little slow, make sure we're doing it right, and then speed up as our proficiency allows. Mm-hmm. But we'll have to report on that one in later weeks. It's not happening this week.
Do I have time to say something quick about inspiration?
Oh, go for it.
That old quote about inspiration being mostly perspiration, or good art being like 10% or 1 or 10%, whatever, inspiration and 90% perspiration or something like that.
Great things and good productivity and all that, like 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, and 4% mathematical ignorance.
Oh, okay, that's... anyways, it doesn't matter what the exact quote is. The gist of it is that basically it's hard work to do something creative. I sort of found that at least with this week, sort of designing something for immediate consumption, is that I found it very difficult in the days leading up to it to sit down and actually I have to do this now because I'm committed.
I can't just make it up on the fly.
I guess some people, and
some people do good on that. Don't get me wrong,
And part of the adventure, in fact, I did, because you can never plan for everything.
I mean, that's what they say explicitly in like the Dungeon Master's Guide. They say, hey, you know what you could do is you can get yourself if there's certain areas you got to explore. You can do various aspects. You got to do the many hats as a DM. But some people like other stuff more than others. If you don't like creating a thing, get yourself a pre-made campaign and tailor it. Spend some time. That allows you to shore up the weaknesses. Like, hey, this pre-gen adventure is not going to contain everything that your players are going to want to do. So tailor it, mix things up, do a little this and that. And so they actually do encourage you to spend the time sitting down to figure out the different things that aren't going to be covered, because no one person can write an adventure that will cover every possible combination of players and stuff. Someone out there is going to come up with an idea that no one else has thought before, and chances are it's going to be a player, and he's going to mess up a GM that way. So you got to at least get some roads formed first in your mind.
And so sitting down ahead of time, it was a little bit painful. It was I admit, at times I did not want to be there in my nice comfortable living room.
Just sit down in my comfortable living room, put on some good music in the background
and work on D&D
my creative
stuff.
mind.
I'm very happy with the result. I mean, I don't know if it was I'm not saying it was good. I'm just happy because I enjoyed myself. And the players seemed to be, they didn't revolt. So,
which is always a positive sign.
So I'm satisfied with how it went off. And so I'm not saying it's, well, let me see, what am I saying about it? I'm saying part of it was inspiration, because I was I want to be a DM again. It's so fun. And then, the after result is always, very rewarding. It's I accomplished this thing. I had ran some players through an adventure, and they all had fun. Some of them didn't live, but...
That seems to be par for the course. I mean, adventuring is not... If adventuring was easy with 100% survival rate, there wouldn't be any commoners.
Yeah. So it's part. It is there's a part of creation that is kind of painful and kind of like, I don't really want to do this. And so you have to sit through that part. And I think that's the same for any kind of creative endeavor, is that yes, there will be moments when you're inspired, like, yes, I want to do this, but then there's other moments where like, I can't, like, I have to fit in an hour worth of work on this creative project in between two other things. I'm going to be super stressed out and tired. I'd rather be napping or something like that. And yeah, you have to fit it all in.
I can see that too. I was planning on, I'll get a little dungeon design written up here for Josh tonight while, the shows are on in the background and all that. Mm-hmm. And, no, my daughter decides to stay up late and she wants to watch the movie with us and she's playing around. So it's like, I got no reading done, no drawing done. I tried doing some before you came in here today, Josh. I sat down with the graph paper and I started doing some doodles, and my daughter's like, "Oh, Daddy, drawing!" And so she gets up and she puts her head like right in front of like where I can see. I can't see the paper at all, and she's just staring like, "What will Daddy draw? This is the most amazing thing ever. I get to see what other people are drawing. Look at how he does like a right corner line there. Oh my gosh!"
Yeah.
I blew her little baby mind with like, oh, Daddy can draw too? It's not just me with this talent? Oh, my goodness.
Can I ask you, like, when you draw stuff, like, is she able to identify, like, oh, that's a cat? Or do you have to tell her what something is? Or are you not that good of an artist to begin with?
I could do a cat, and I can do this, but I got to say, my history as a biology, member, like, I'd have to tell her, this is a prokaryote, and what I'm drawing here is actually the subcellular structures, or this is a bone structure. It's in your hand, so you actually have a little bit more because you're young, and some of these bones haven't fused before. But then, here's like the various bones inside the hand. I'm going to give this one 2 thumbs as opposed to a pinky because I'm crazy. Because I can do that. I can actually draw bones very well. Drawing a cat is difficult. So I'm like, that's what happens when you spend 5 years studying biology.
Yeah, all right.
Boy, howdy, could I draw a decent plant, though. Woo! I remember trying to draw an elephant once for a niece of mine, and it, like, I give, a little, flack to the people throughout history that have drawn, like, crazy things. Like, where's your sense of perspective and, like, this, like, the size difference upon, like how far back you are in the scene and your vanishing point on the horizon. Uh-huh. But that elephant says, I do not have any room to argue. And from what I've tried to draw for like people and all that stuff, the proportions are always bad and they always look like they're in constant pain, and like, my life is suffering sort of thing is all they ever want to scream out. So, I mean, like, for all those artists throughout history that at least got the human body in proper proportion, you beat me. You've beaten me so far. You're technically the better artist, and I'm willing to give it up.
Well, I mean, ever since I think modernism, like I want to say postmodernism, but I think it's actually modernism that added this idea that it doesn't have to be there doesn't have to be one perspective, one vantage point that you're seeing an image from, because like you might see like 3 sides of it, like the Picasso with the 3 sides of a face, and they're all weird. Yeah. So you don't necessarily have. I mean, we've done away with that whole like, oh, I'm a camera now, and I'm facing a thing.
If Picasso can get away with doing like different areas of like the posing, sort of thing, where you can see all like both ears on like one side of the face, does that mean the whole boobs and butt pose can be seen as a similar style? No, it's not designed to show the eroticism of the female body in such a way that cannot be actually reproduced in the real world. It's the showing of the body in a way, like Picasso sort of style, where you can see both a person's ears despite a side profile happening.
I don't know those 2 perspectives that you just mentioned. I don't know if they're necessarily contradictory. Because it can have that goal of titillation or just erotica or something like that, but also have artistic value.
But could like an artist make that claim? It's like, no, what I'm actually doing is subtly slipping in a little Picasso-esque nature to it. I know it's not usually seen in the superhero genre, but I like to try putting in these subtle things. That's why when things go really bad and the heroes wind up in hell, you can see some of the Bosch-like things in the background, some of the Hieronymus Bosch things. I try and slip in subtle artistic overtones. I don't want to imitate. I don't want to be seen as like somebody who plagiarizes Picasso. So I just make sure, you know, like when the female is posing, you can see, you know, like both breasts and both, you know, butt cheeks.
Yes, I think an artist can say that, but the artist is dead. And by that I mean, even when an artist isn't actually dead, the work is supposed to speak for itself. There's more art theory. Sorry about that if this is boring for people. But yeah,
I just want to see if we can find an artist who actually has done this sort of stuff and actually have the cojones to come up and say, no, it's actually a Picasso-esque overtone. You know, I'm just doing subtle Picasso notations of a non-strict singular perspective, you know, on the human form.
I think that would be an interesting thing to hear from an artist, but yeah, like I'm saying, it's kind of, in a way, it's irrelevant because the work should speak for itself. It's like, how does this work affect you as a viewer, if that's even a concept?
But I mean, you've got like Tumblr sites, you know, like Escher Girls, where you can see several times a week them putting up stuff, you know, like, oh, hey, you know, like this is like a vacuum sealed body stocking, and she's like contorted in such a way where her spine had to be shattered, or it looks like she's a centaur just missing the first two legs because of how she's curved, you know, and all that, and where they're showing us like this is not, you know, like realistic at all. And you know, like, I'd like to see an artist actually come out and say, I was trying for a Picasso thing, and it really hurts me that you think I was trying that instead. I want to see somebody actually just try it, just come up with such a old-faced statement to see how the counter goes.
I should mention about
it's
about
like a
art,
chess strategy, man. I want to see someone try the bold move.
When you are creating art that sort of looks like a real person, or like that Escher thing, or it looks like a sort of reality contorted, or the process of creating that art has to, by its very nature, become a bit more clinical. And you can't just be, like, the artist can't be, oh, you know, I'm just aroused the whole time I'm drawing, you know. This is
I imagine that would actually make it rather difficult to draw a decent scene, being aroused the entire time.
I think so. So in some ways, because also, you know, that's the whole other thing about, like, zooming in on one part of a picture is, it's not that emotional if it's just, you know, just an edge or a corner, although it can be, like, definitely.
And then all we need now is somebody to come up with like a superhero who's just like a female that's made out of rubber, so she can do those poses. And another character who winds up distorting space-time, so that all these weird, crazy poses, where you can even make like a Robert Liefeld with his tiny feet and all those weird perspectives, as being like, oh no, you're just seeing it through the lens of the gravitational distortions. His feet are the regular size. It just looks tiny due to, you know, gravitational lens warpings.
Yeah. So I think what goes through an artist's head as they're working is often just, you know, no, I'm moving this sort of inert, cold image from one location to another, and, you know, applying some sort of transformation to it. But the emotion, I don't know where the emotion comes, but it's at some point maybe early on in the process when they get the idea to say, okay, here's a scene I want to do. I had my emotion, and now I have to get down to work and actually, like, put it on paper. And occasionally you can inject emotion again. You say, oh, that's not quite right, or this doesn't, like, if I was a viewer, I would see this a little differently, so I'm going to do a little change or something. But
it does strike me as a little odd, though, that in a lot of, like, the superhero format comics, what a lot of the readers seem to at least profess what they want to see is like this is like a shot taken, like Spider-Man's like photographing every darn thing, and then somebody puts in word bubbles.
It's kind of neat, though. It's a neat idea.
It's an interesting concept, but it's like, you know what, you're working with like a format that you know, like, you don't need to obey the laws of physics to almost any degree, sort of thing. I mean, that's the reason why people have superheroes as a genre. It's like, oh yeah, and then here's Superman lifting a car up above his head and smashing it into a rock as the mobsters flee. And you know, it's like, you know, like why are you obeying, like, you know, like the images have to be like taken like as though they were, you know, like a snapshot. Can't you do something even better and more, like, amazingly mind warping than, you know, like you know, something that could be like photographed with like models?
Yeah.
Although, mind you could have some interesting work. You had a decent budget. You get the right actors to be in the outfits and all that, and with little like you know, touch up stuff, you know, like CGI stuff to make it work. You could tell a story that is effectively in like photographs and then with word bubbles.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
It'd be kind of like the rotoscoping, you know, that they did for some of the the Vallejo stuff that became like A Tale of Ice and Fire and some of the older stuff.
Do you know, has anybody actually done like a graphic novel in photography? Like sort of taken, I guess it's a mashup between film and graphic novels, where that you could have like actually film pictures of like stills in comic books. I mean,
I think that would be a very interesting. I can't recall ever hearing about that. Yeah. I'm sure at least someone has thought about it. Yeah. But I think I might have to have some fun Googling, you know, like.
And I guess like if you go to all the trouble of, you know, putting to the costumes and makeup and getting models, you know, choosing from different models, that maybe at that point you'd be like, well, we'll just go the whole way and
why not use a, you know, like like instead of a camera, actually use a video recorder.
Yeah, but it'd be I'd be interested in the like how that affects the final product if you're saying no, it's going to be in stills, and they're like okay, so that's
some very interesting stuff, man. We may have to Google that up. We've raised some powerful questions on ourselves in this one.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
questions beyond the scope, I think, of our ability to answer, which is a very rare instance. Between our nerdy perspectives.
If we do say so ourselves.
Well, usually we can at least come to an answer on our own, but this is something that, you know, it seems like has anyone done this before? This is a very weird idea that might just pan out.
Well, I like asking questions that we don't know the answer to. So if the listeners happen to maybe have an inkling at a direction that the answer could possibly lie in, or maybe
is there someone over on DeviantArt that's produced like a little like comic book out of like taking like photos of people in costumes and doing the word balloons on them?
Yeah, you can let us know, or you know, any other thought you might happen to have, you can send us email. TheSimulationist@gmail.com is our email address. You can also comment on our Facebook page or our YouTube page, which are both. Type in The Simulationist to both of those and you'll find it. And,
Yeah, or you could just, you know, like yell at Josh over on Twitter, you know, Spaceboot with the numeral 1.
That's my Twitter handle. Yeah, you can talk to me on Twitter, too, and let me know. Send me a link to whatever. Send me a link. I mean, it doesn't have to be related to this, but, yeah, just now that we're on the topic, it'd be awesome if you had thoughts on, like, pictures, graphic novels.
Well, that's the thing, because I've seen some very good artists who utilize completely like almost alien perspectives. I remember one. It's a little blue how the guy works, but his wordplay is amazing. It's called Raven's Dojo, and there's one thing where there's two guys in a shower fighting each other stealth-wise as a lady you know is having a shower. Nothing naughty shown. But in order to make sure that nothing naughty is shown, they had to use some amazingly weird angles. Like, you know how, like, the fishbulb lens makes everything weird, and then when a person moves, it's like, they stay the same, but the background is all moving on them. You know, when that shock scene happens in a movie. It's using weird things that like, multiply to, like, the nth power for perspective and angled shots that just amazing. I mean, there is something to be said about the titillation factor in there. It's like, ooh, she's a beautiful lady having, you know, in the shower and all that sort of thing. But these two guys are having a fight, you know, when she's not looking. There's two guys, you know, disguised as like the tile on the background, fighting each other. When the whole thing is like, this is kind of awesome, actually. And just the use of angles to make sure that it's not a very graphic scene.
Oh, yeah.
It's only alluring, I suppose. It's a very, very good time. I go back there about once a year just to say, okay, now how did you do that again? Like, I was a ground shot going at an angle like this here, where the angle, and like this guy uses a lot of interesting angles and perspectives to make things work.
Yeah. Having done a bit of work on, like, I've drawn a little bit on comics. One of my, like, I don't know if it's a cheap trick, but when you draw something in front of something that's complicated, it's like, I don't want to draw like a whole, you know, a tree or a bush, you know, a tree with all the different branches. So I'll just draw, you know, something in front of it to like, here's a parking sign in front of the tree, so now you can't see the tree.
Although that said, there's something to be said about, a good quality in the simplification of things.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
You do run the risk of making things look cartoony the more simplified you get. But there is that nice little sweet spot where, you know, like, when you get things more simplified, you're able to buy into more things. If it looks photographically realistic, like someone's doing, you know, like I suppose like a Sandman sort of graphic novel, and somebody reaches behind into hammer space behind them, it doesn't mesh as well as if it's something, you know, like in a cartoon, you know, like Bugs Bunny. where you can hit that sweet spot in between the two of detail, where a person still looks, and when you perceive them, you still perceive them as like a real person, but they're simplified enough that you can buy, like they reach behind them and pops a flamethrower, haha. And so I think finding that sweet spot of the realistic versus the simplified to allow for the opening of the mind to any possibility, very hard to get, but very nice when it's done. I think all artists who are in the that area of like superheroes or like fun novels, action adventure, should always be trying to figure out exactly where's that sweet spot for them. Like, do I want to make this like a hard thing to make it more detailed, show the gritty lines and the face stubble and all that, or do I just want to do like a slightly brown color on his face to show that he's got stubble?
Yeah.
And so there's some very interesting work to be done there. But again, you have to look at it and you have to analyze, and you have to learn from what you do and saying, how did this work and why did this not work? It's all like it's life. It's a learning process.
Yeah, indeed. Is that we were talking about inspiration? Can we still talk about? Can we do a main topic? Are we ready?
I think we're almost done for it. I think we got to keep talking about inspiration to carry us off. But that's the thing about the inspiration, though, is it is the first step, but you can't create greatness without the inspiration there to be first. Like, there have been times I've had writer's block, I've had, like DM's block, and it's just like, now what happens in the story? I'm like, I don't know. I found the best cure for that is to become a participant. To create something, you take something into yourself, before you can put something out. So, read the book, go, I've been putting off watching this series for a little while. Watch a little bit of it. See what catches your eye and see what can inspire you.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the great things about 5th edition is having inspiration. It's something you can have. So they're like, oh no, the house I grew up in is, about to be set on fire by orcs. So, I'm inspired to, save the day. So you have inspiration. And I like that they have a rule for that, because I think it very well exemplifies what it's like to have inspiration. It's like all of a sudden, anything you do, you try it twice and you take the better of those two results. That's inspiration. And I think that speaks great on that.
Well, I mean, I still haven't wrapped my mind around. I've looked at it. I haven't wrapped my mind around the idea behind inspiration. I like that. Yeah, you can have moments of clarity. Although I always thought that sort of the dice in some ways represented that, because it never fails when I run a D&D or when I'm in a D&D game. People will roll a die and they'll be like, okay, I'm making an attack roll. This usually works with skill checks actually, because it's like, oh, we're making spot checks and I roll a d20 and let's see what I spot. And it never fails whenever, and this is good, I do encourage the following, but people always, when they roll low, they always say, oh, I was distracted, or, oh, this or that distracted me. And if they roll high, it's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm on the ball. They justify it by saying that it was something that their character did, even though if that had been the case, as a DM, that would be a bonus. So oh, you're distracted by a thing. Oh, that's a penalty. Or, oh, you're specifically focused on one particular area where that thing that you wanted to spot happened to be. Well, that's a bonus to roll. So players always want to say after the fact that, oh, I was inspired, or I had some reason. They want to justify it, and that's an important justification. That's part of something that goes into improv, for example.
Well, think about it like this: your character is attacking an orc, and you make your attacks. You get your 1 through 20 results. But now your character is in a different situation where they have to attack an orc. Otherwise, the orc will chop off the head of one of the other party members. In which case, it's like, dude, I gotta make this. I need to. I have a powerful need for this to happen. So you spend your inspiration. It's like, no. Eberron did something similar in having the heroic points allow you to roll an extra die 6 or roll 2 die 20, take the higher result. Where you got to spend it whenever you deemed it was necessary, so many times per level. But the thing I always found about that was because you only get so many per level. Unless you took the right feat and you were a barbarian, in which case you got it once. You could blow once whenever you're in a rage. but because it was like a finite amount, it's like, oh, once you use it up, you have no more heroic points until you gain another level. It had the point where people wouldn't use it because it was too precious to use, except when like it was almost too late to be worthwhile. Whereas the inspiration thing is you can get it. It's like, oh boy, and then like I spend inspiration to make sure that orc doesn't attack my team member. Yeah, I saved the day, hooray!
Yeah.
But it's not like the inspiration's not going to return to your next level. All you have to do is like find like a reason to be doing better than average, do even more, and so it's like that's why you have your ideals and your bonds.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say a paladin knight in the service of a kingdom sort of thing. It's like, no, the kingdom might fall if we don't save the day, and that's his bond, is the kingdom. And any time like the kingdom's in peril, he will rise to the occasion, and that's where the true heroic trait comes out for him, and that's what the inspiration is. Mm-hmm. That's the nature of your heroic self.
Okay, yeah.
How's that as a perspective of it, rather than just saying like, oh, I was inspired? It's like, no, that's my heroic essence. Yeah,
I can buy this because I'm trying to like compare it to real life experience, and I guess sort of when you go about your daily life, I guess most of the time you sort of stay at a level. Like you might be trying to accomplish something, but you're not always like going full tilt, full sprint at it.
Yeah. I mean, there have been times at work I've been doing 3 things at once. Like, dude, this needs to get done. Everyone else is busy, so there, back, forth, back, and it's almost like heck. And sometimes I'm working with the coworkers, and we're moving like our arms are going like an octopus. We're all reaching the same spot at the same time, and yet there's nothing conflicting. That's like using inspiration. That's when everything comes together, and you make it come together. You can do it at any time.
Yeah,
but it's only when it's like, I gotta get this done. We gotta get on top of the situation. We can't let this slide back anymore.
I should say, like, I have an objection to that, and that is that, like, in a game like D&D, especially in a fight, like, wouldn't you, like, every time, if you get in a fight, like, if it's literally, like,
life and death, as fights tend to be.
Yeah, life and death. Like, even if it's something that you could probably, like, relatively easily handle, technically, if you just dropped your weapons and, like, stood still, that goblin would stab you and, cut your artery.
My insides are outside. Oh, no.
So even if it's a relatively benign threat, it still has a sharp object that can end you.
Aren't you giving it your all every dang time, then?
So that's what my question is. Why aren't you focused, 100% of the time? Maybe that's for humans, like physical beings, that's not possible. I don't know.
Well, okay, let's work it like this. Let's say, in a regular fight, you are still giving, like your all to make sure you're not getting, skewered by goblin spears.
Yeah.
But then, the moment comes where, like, you have to do this. You've got, we'll use like something from the Super Friends, cartoon and all that, where you have just one chance to do it, and that way you give it. That's your 110% when you've got the just one chance. That's the 110 you have to give to do it, sort of thing. That's.
I mean, in a fictional game, sure, 100. You can have a possibility of 110, sure.
And so, I mean, what if we had like the opposite? If you're not a player character, if you're just like some average NPC schmo, you have like what can be considered uninspiration. You don't have that heroic trait. So unless things, like get really serious and you rise to become PC, worthy, you don't have the inspiration. You can't get inspiration. That's what makes the heroic trait. You cannot give the 110%. Okay. You don't have that hard edge that allows you to do better than just one dang dice roll means. You got to take 2 dice rolls and get the better of the both of them. Well, you don't have that cutting edge.
I'm picturing the sleepy townsfolk in the western, like the saloon town, where they're just, the guy's just sort of sitting on the porch and other guys sitting in the bar. They're just like nobody, like they just don't care. And I don't. And then there's
the only thing they care about is a nice beer and playing the banjo.
Yeah, there might be beer. Yeah, a guy might play a banjo or something like that. But they're super laid back. There's like, they don't work that hard, except for, I mean, obviously in the Old West, people had to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and maybe that's why, like, when you see them in the town, they're just like, so tired. Like, I've just been
I don't
out on the
have to work. I ain't gonna work. I did enough work already.
Yeah. And then, but also, like, wouldn't you, almost any human, if you focus in on them, you can tell a story about how they had a moment of adversity and they were kind of on a sort of a low level of interest in anything at all, and then something happened to make them interested, and then they sort of rise to that occasion. It doesn't have to be heroics, but it can be like, oh, I had to jump out of the way of a stagecoach that was coming in, and
okay, well, maybe we can work it as like this, is those special moments that you sometimes get. Like, I remember back in the university days where I was doing, like, report after report. I had, like, thanks to data getting in just at the nick of time, I wound up having to do 3 full-length lab reports, like, back to back to back. And I'd get 3 reports done in 2 days. And I was reading the stuff here, so, okay, now that I got the data, I can compare it to this, study here, and I'm reading. And I hit a stage, almost like some sort of weird intellectual nirvana, where everything that was coming in for information, I was perceiving it as a factoid, weighing it against the relevance. And it became not even the stuff I was reading. It'd be like, like the TV's on in the background, and like somebody gives out a news blurb, and I'm like scientists say carbs might be bad for you, and I'm like, okay, well, this is just a news blurb, so I assign like a truth value to it of like 1%, and then it gets logged in my mind as being, yeah, somebody said it, but it was a news blurb, so it's probably not anything related to an actual study. Whereas I'm reading, a thing on like concentration of chemicals, in the water and how it affects fish, and that's an actual study, and they've been like, they toss a bunch of fish into a tank and they add more and more like pesticides until the fish start acting crazy. Mm-hmm. And I'll assign the values of that as like a 95%. Maybe they did something wrong. I'll have to double check all the data. Mm-hmm. But it gets all up, and every factoid of information became weighed and analyzed and put and sorted. It was I gotta say, it was beautiful. And if I try really hard, I might be able to hit that point again. But I had that inspiration at the moment where everything comes in, and that would be like the equivalent of like, I have, I'm doing my research because I'm a sage, and then I'm using my inspiration. I do 2 die 20 rolls to get the best result possible for my grades on this, and that's where it happens. Or you can see it as like I gotta get this done. I gotta make this happen. Like I've got the football. I gotta make the winning play, and that's when the adrenaline surge hits you, and then all the world kind of slows down, and all of a sudden it's like it becomes so easy. I move here to dodge him as he's coming down this way. Go to the right a little bit more, dodge that, and just power on through at this angle, and there's no way they can get me. You're at that like that player's high sort of thing. And that's the inspiration for like your dodge checks. Okay, yeah, I'm doing this and I got that. It's like you hit that state where it's like, oh, all of a sudden everything changes and like I'm so much better. I can't help but do. Success is practically guaranteed. How could I do anything but win? And could you consider like inspiration as being that moment when that happens? It's like, oh, I needed to power through and I broke that barrier. And so inspiration would be like temporary transcending your level a little bit. It's like, I am a first level adventurer, but when I really needed to, I busted through that barrier and I was suddenly so much better than I usually am. And then I'm able to do that so often, I'm second level now. It's like I'm always doing that much better. Oh, and that it shows like how leveling occurs in a more natural process. Because they describe it in the books and period editions like, you are a mage, and you are studying the spells and all this, and then, you can never get that spell. You can read it and all that, and it's just not working. And then one day, you wake up, you sit down to study, and then you try practicing it out, and all of a sudden, oh, fireball happens. Congratulations, you've hit level 5, and that shows how you expand as a person. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't really actually ever happen in the game. Whereas using inspiration gives you like a bonus to your rules, your bonus to your checks that is like the same as like having a higher proficiency bonus.
Well, but inspiration never, like at least according to the rules that in like the game we're talking about, 5th edition.
Yeah.
Inspiration never lets you cast a higher level spell.
Not in this case, no. But it can effectively give you up to a +5 bonus. So it's like, for this one attack, it's as though I wasn't a 1st level fighter. I was like a 5th level fighter. And then you keep doing something like that. You keep doing your research as though you were an actual sage and not just some like like novice just out of the, I guess the wizard school or whatever it is you're a part of. And that keeps happening. You keep doing that. You keep using your inspiration this way to make the proper attack and do it. And then all of a sudden, it's not as though you're always getting your like 5 level, bonus points higher because you're making your rolls. It's you are learning to be better than you were before. And then, oh hey, now you're 2nd level. And so every time you use inspiration, it's like getting a glimpse of what it's like to be a better you. Until you're doing it often enough, you're always a better you, and that's your level. So inspiration is like a momentary being a little bit better than your level. Just like a prelude to the better hero you are slowly becoming as you gain experience. Could you see it as something like that?
I mean, I can imagine it that way, yeah, sure.
Okay, in that case, that's how we can imagine such a thing. I recall in the tri-stat system, what you could do is you could use your karma points and you could pre-spend them. Like, let's say you're a magician in that. You're playing like a D&D style tri-stat game. Mm-hmm. To increase your power level for your magic ability, that's like 20 karma points, which is a heck of a lot to get. That's like 10 adventures to get up another level of magical power. But for one scene, a singular instance in a campaign, if you got a couple points to spend, you can spend it in that case and say, like, okay, now I'm, instead of having just, magic power for, your ability at level 1, I have it at level 2. And all of a sudden you are casting the higher level spells. And that's the equivalent of the inspiration there. See it as like see the inspiration in D&D as like having karma in your way.
Yeah, well,
could you see it as something like that then, where your karma's aligning with your fate, and then all of a sudden you're, I'm a much better person just for a little bit.
Well, let me put it this way. I absolutely can see it that way. Okay. I don't see it as the only, sort of visualization of a character improving, but I do see it as, it's one way that you could see it. Yeah, so yes.
Well, that's the thing is I think what they probably should have done for 5th edition is don't just call it inspiration. Like if a person wants to, I'm a monk, so I'm calling that Tao. Whenever I find that I am one with the Tao, I am one with the way, and the universe can't help but give me, the right conclusion, because I was one with the universe then.
Yeah, I like it. And yeah, I like the idea that there are moments when you want to focus a little bit more, or when you want to expend more, I don't know. In some way, it's just, maybe it's just, I think really hard and therefore it happens, kind of like.
I will make my desire become manifest. I mean, we've all had that moment where it's I don't care how hard this is going to happen. I will make it happen the way I want. I will get this done, and I will persevere for it.
Well, and when it's working on a personal thing, in terms of pushing yourself, that's one thing.
So I take pride in a good, fast, efficient work speed for myself. I want to be seen as a good and contributing member to the workforce of which I am a part of. Mm-hmm. And so when things start getting behind and we start getting overwhelmed at work, I rise to the occasion. I spend my inspiration and golly, I do better.
Okay.
Because that's where my bond lies, and I will do this.
Well, here another example just came to my brain, and that is in D&D. I don't know, 3rd edition, 2nd edition, earlier editions. There was a rule for when you're riding a mount, when you're riding a horse. There's a rule called, I think it's called spur mount or something like that.
Oh yeah, you can push your mount and all that, and forced march.
Push your mount, too. And all you have, this is something, for some reason, you can't do this to yourself, but if you cause damage, spur, stab your horse or whatever, I don't know. It's supposed to be spurs.
Yeah.
But you can get 10 extra feet of movement per round. I
suppose it wouldn't be that hard to extrapolate that sort of rule for a slaver. You just need a whip instead of a spur.
Yeah, and then for some reason, I was trying to wonder,
they have, in the miniatures handbook, they have the commander sort of thing, in which case you give that commander a whip, call him a slave driver, and all of a sudden, you're getting 10 extra feet of movement out of your dang slaves.
Yeah, but
not exactly the best way either, but some people see it the same way with a horse, right?
If you have, a party of adventuring heroes, is it is the fighter really, is he moving because he's just that unwilling? The reason he's so slow is because he's that unwilling to move. Like with the horse, I understand, because horses are, a little bit dumb. Maybe they keep a certain pace just because they're horses. But with a person, it's like, no, if I want to sprint, I'm gonna, like, if I want to go full tilt all out, I'm doing it because I have the will to do it.
Or maybe it's easier to borrow somebody else's will to do better.
Yeah, do you think?
In which case, it's like giving your inspiration to somebody else's, like rule, which is something you can do in 5th edition.
Yeah.
And so in which case, the rider's will overrides the basic nature of the horse. The slave driver's whip, acts as the physical will to, force the other person to do better, go stronger, be higher, because they are adding the other person's will to their own willpower, and they become, like, better than they could have been alone. Thus is the power of, I think the greatest power of humanity is being able to add 1 and 1 together to make 2. I mean, like, a pack of wolves is pretty good, but they're never going to be as good as, like a team of, I'll go Navy SEALs. The Navy SEALs are a much better, more elite team than any pack of wolves will ever be. Because humanity has the power to add 1 and 1 together to create 2, and we are a much better union than any animal can ever be with another member of their species.
But let me ask you this, if you had an Olympic levels like sprinter, and he's giving it his all, he's like working for every 100th of a second, he's practice. Because
that could mean the difference between like a gold and bronze in some of those races.
Yeah. And so you've got this guy, pushing, like he's training to the top of his game. If you then whip him, does he suddenly get a whole second faster or 2 seconds?
Well, here's the thing. Maybe it's not exactly whipping, but maybe the coach acts as to give the inspiration to him and all that sort of thing.
Maybe.
It does, yeah. It does I'm thinking in the weird, crazy medieval D&D sort of style. Where, whip is a legitimate motivational tactic. It has been throughout history. I don't think it works very well these days compared to better teaching, and coaching techniques. But
and I guess in storytelling, in fantasy, the fantasy world, there's room for that. But I guess at the very edges of, professional quality, there's not a lot of room for mystical ideas. Although still,
I recall in the back of a Dragon magazine, one of the polyhedrons, they had a D20 Modern campaign. Where was it? It was basically Buffy the Vampire Slayer. One person plays the Slayer who sees the evil things that really are, as opposed to them being hidden behind the shadow veil where everyone just sees like big brutes. They're actually bugbears, stuff like that. And they had a class for what was effectively like the Watchers they had in Buffy. And what the Watcher was able to do was give bonuses to another player. He was kind of like a bard, but very sagacious in that way. Mm-hmm. And so, in this case, you can consider the nature of the bard is to be like the slave driver, but more like a carrot as opposed to a whip, right? Mm-hmm. And so how about that? It's like the bard is like the professional inspirator. He gives you the better ability scores. He gets you to do this, and he gets you to roll twice instead of once. And
well, I like
it makes the bard seem a lot better in my eyes that way. Now that I've said it out loud, better than just I play a lute and people rock out.
And that's a little bit more appealing to me because bards invoke the magic word of magic, which sort of lets a lot of these other things that I'm sort of objecting to sort of fall away because, magic, once you add magic, this inspiration factor is a little bit muddy and whatever. But if you just add magic to that, I think I might be a little bit more, I don't know why, but I might be a little bit more attuned to it. I kind of like
You're willing to forgive a little bit more than magic. Okay.
So
in that case, what if we
said
inspiration for clerics and paladins, and maybe even stuff like druids, is the divine power helping them out? Is beyond actually spending a spell slot.
Yeah. Also, there's another magic word. Divine,
in that case, you could see the inspiration different ways depending on your character class.
Yep.
Fighters they're given their 110%, whereas clerics are like divine guidance, and monks are I am one with the universe.
Yeah. I think I like that. I like having sort of different options. And imagine, if you had your own character, in theory, you could come up with your own little justification for why you get this. So.
I'm a fate spinner. When I spin my inspiration, I'm literally weaving the strands of fate and circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah,
it also helps that I'm, like a chaos mage, so that kind of explains how I'm able to do it, right? It's just a natural part of who I am.
Yeah, just for some reason, chaos always seems to work out in my favor, never against me. I don't know why.
It's this one part Tau in that case. You're one with the universe, so chaos always comes out in your favor because it's like riding a wave. You're a surfer. You surf the tide of chaos and fate.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Actually, that sounds like a really good character concept.
Just ride the highs up and wait out the lows.
Exactly. You know when to ride and when to wait. Wait for a better wave to get those higher numbers when you roll.
All right.
I dig that, yeah. I think that's a nice character concept to end off on. And very interesting way to, I might have to sit down and maybe make that as an archetype for or a sub-archetype, a different style of chaos sorcerer then.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that back in 3rd edition...
Chaos Ratchet.
Well, back in 3rd edition they had the Fate Spinner Prestige class, so I might want to start looking up stuff there and see if I can incorporate that as an alternative archetype. Yeah. Maybe make it for a wizard? I'll have to think this out through. But at least now I have inspiration for another thing.
Ah, well, that's good to hear. I hope we've inspired our listeners a little bit. That's what our attempt,
I think that's our attempt throughout all 130 iterations.
We have always wanted to inspire people and give them cool ideas to write their own stories or just think of their own stuff or whatever you want to do.
Enlightenment comes through self-analysis. So, anytime you're thinking about something, it's like, oh, yes, now I have an idea. Mm-hmm. That means we helped you out. I dig that.
All right. Well, yeah, so thanks for sticking around and listening for another podcast. And stay tuned. In another 7 days, we'll be back once again.
Unless you're listening to us in the future, in which case, you just click on the next one.
Yeah, just click on over to the next
one. You can shotgun us one after another.
Or click
90 minutes at a time, man.
Click onto a previous episode if you like.
That's right. There's 129 90-minute episodes before you. You could go backwards and you could really, really rock out to it. If you have 6.5 days of nothing better to do, then you could get us all in one big marathon.
Wow.
I don't know if we can actually recommend that. I believe we should, like playing video games, frequent breaks.
In moderation. Yeah. Well, the thing about podcasts is you can do it while you're working out or on a long road trip, or you can listen to us while you're accomplishing something else.
The Canadian parks are great places, but they do not get good radio reception.
They don't have good podcasts.
And if you don't want to pay much every month for Sirius satellite radio, you could just download a bunch of podcasts and make sure you play them on your car system as you're going around.
Going through Canadian parks.
Yeah,
so that's a good the new Canadian pastime. Listening to
podcasts as you go through the parklands.
Okay. Do we have any thoughts more to add on simulate?
I would like to see them describe inspiration in different ways for 5th edition, so that it can work for different players.
Yeah.
Provided the mechanics wind up being the same thing, it's all just wearing different clothes.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to get into another weedy discussion about the mechanics, but I'm still not entirely satisfied with the roll 2 dice and take the highest. But I think we have to leave that. I think it's better than
a static modifier.
Yeah, I know.
Just +1
for
+2.
Some purposes, it's more. What do you call it? It's more elegant.
Satisfying too. I think
it's more contained. I guess it's more. The system is smoother. So
rolling a second die is more personally satisfying than just saying, "Oh, and now I'll add +2 to that number I rolled." Even if the statistics say, at the difficulty, +2 is going to get you the same thing. That second roll, that second chance, it's like getting a free spin on a slot machine.
Yeah, I guess I kind of like a free spin. Okay, well, I'll live with it.
Oh, you're going to have to. It's 5th edition. Hopefully for at least another 8 to 10 years, it's going to be the only edition of D&D that's being produced for active material.
Well, that doesn't mean... obviously I'm going to be playing it, but that doesn't mean if I have a regular... If I get off my butt and start doing a regular D&D game, it's probably going to stick with 3.5. Just
I'm going to force you into 5th edition because I've got inspiration for a campaign.
Okay, well, we can do that. Okay, so that's the end. Really, we're really done.
Inspiration wherever you can find it, I think is the ultimate underlier. It doesn't matter how you get inspired. Read something, watch something. Do it. Listen to a podcast. You know, like see a series on Netflix. You know, turn it into a radio station you don't usually listen to. Anywhere you can find it, get inspiration.
Cool. Okay. Well, that sounds, reasonable. Okay. I've been Josh Trelevin.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.
Send us money.